Hey everybody, welcome to part 2 of my How to Use Math with Confidence mini-series. If you have not yet watched part 1, stop! Stop watching this video and then just go back to part 1. In part 1, I provide a pretty detailed flip through of the instructor's guide, a brief flip through of the student manual. Then I'm going to go over the master sheets that are needed for each lesson. Those are housed in the back of the teacher's guide. I show you what those look like and which ones I end up laminating, which ones I just choose to copy and put in a sheet protector. And then I'm going to give a flip through of lesson 1.1 from start to finish. Now, once you've finished that video, feel free to resume today's video, part 2, where I'm going to walk you through everything that goes into the lesson and the workbook pages of lesson 2.3. This includes getting the manipulatives out, putting them away, and I'm also going to show you easier ways to organize your manipulatives to make the process faster and more efficient. The first thing that I want to go over today is actually the math manipulatives. So here at the bottom of page 7, it says what you'll need. And here it says you'll use simple household items to make math hands-on, concrete, and fun in second grade math with confidence. Most lessons only require materials from your math kit, but sometimes you'll use everyday objects to enhance the lessons. These ones we have run into, they really are just household things. I love that it says no need for an expensive shopping trip though. You'll likely already own everything you need. Okay, so now here, let's create our math kit. So here's what, I'll go through the book, what it requires, and then I'll show you what they look like after we've gone through the book. So first is base 10 blocks. You can see a diagram of these, but I am going to show you what they look like in just a moment. Then 50 small counters, coins, this will include, and I love that it gives you exactly at least how many that you'll need, 20 pennies, 20 nickels, 10 dimes, 8 quarters. Okay, let's flip the page. Additionally, you're going to need play money, and this will include 10 of each of the $1 bills, $5 bills, $10 bills, $20 bills, and $100 bills. Then you're going to need a clock with hands, 1-foot ruler, 2 packs of playing cards, and 2 dice, blank paper, pencils, 3-page protectors, dry erase marker, binder with about 25-page protectors. This is recommended but not required. I will absolutely testify that you need a binder with page protectors because it makes it so much easier to save these and store them so that the pages don't get dented or ripped or damaged. Okay, let's go ahead and look at what all of these supplies look like. Here we have our base 10 blocks, and in the base 10 blocks, let me introduce you to what each one looks like. Our biggest is the 1,000 unit, which is called a large cube. Then we have a flat, which has 100, it goes 10 by 10. There are 10 units in here. Then we have a rod, which has 10 units in it. And then we have what they call a unit, which is just 1. Next is 50 small counters. I actually have more than that, and I have 6 different colors. You don't necessarily need to have 6, but you do need multiple colors of counters and at least 50 of them. Third is coins, and here you need at least 20 pennies, 20 nickels, 10 dimes, and 8 quarters. And these I organize by putting them all in this bigger Ziploc bag. Fourth is play money, and I organize these through rubber bands. So you can see I have a stack of ones here, and because there's a bigger stack of ones than, for example, you would see of the 100s, I use a bigger rubber band on the 1 and a smaller on the 100. And so this just keeps it a little bit faster, and then I put them all away in this Ziploc bag. The next manipulative is a clock with movable hands. So this is the hand that moves for the minute, and this is for the hour. Mine says that specifically, yours might not. The most important thing is to have the hour and the minute here and the movable hands. This happens to be a Melissa and Doug clock that we've used for years with my children. That being said, we're not really going to be using these puzzle pieces that have shapes for each hour. My daughter will use it, and that will help her learn her shapes and such. But for my son's second grade math purposes, we're just going to use this clock portion, and we'll just keep this in our math manipulatives box, only getting it out as needed. Next, we have a ruler, 2 decks of cards, which I do find it helpful to have the cards be a different back. So one is red and one is blue. I find that to be really helpful to keep them organized because you do take the decks of cards out and you do get specific cards of each. So it helps you organize it, putting it back into the proper box. And then a bag of die. You don't necessarily need 5, but I would recommend at least 2. That's just how many the pack of dice that I bought came with. Okay, so next we have a dry erase board, which typically this actually calls for paper, but because this is reusable and we always have a dry erase board, which this one on the back is also handwriting as well. It's got that handwriting paper form. and it's got just a plain white one. I prefer this. It's reusable. It's better for the environment. If nothing else, it's just faster and I don't have to buy more. It's just always going to be there. And then to accompany that, this program does require dry erase markers and a pencil. We do use the pencil for the student workbook, but since we're not using paper, we use more than anything these dry erase markers. The last thing that you're going to need is heavyweight sheet protectors. I recommend heavyweight. That's not necessarily in the book, but you want these to last. So invest in good ones that are going to last. And if you have seen my first video where I show you what I use these for, then you know why I use them. You know why they're important. If you haven't, go back and watch part 1 of my How to Use Math with Confidence. There you get to see how I use them and what I choose to laminate, what I choose to put in sheet protectors. So I'm not going to go any further into that. However, I am going to show you 2 additional things that I do add to my math manipulatives bin that are not included in this list. Lastly, I include 2D and 3D shapes. These are toys that my kids can play with. I actually have some laminated cards like so that my daughter can get introduced to shapes with, just to make different things. My son can as well. It can just make a little bit more fun. So if we have a road trip that we're going on, or if my kids are looking for extra things to do, if we get done with math a little bit faster one day, this gives a fun activity to do to apply geometry. All right, there are the math manipulatives. Stay tuned for how we utilize these manipulatives in a lesson in just a few moments. Okay, right before we get to our big lesson breakdown, first I want to go over some pages in the back, the helpful resources section of the back of the instructor guide. These are things that I found incredibly helpful, and I just wanted to point them out to you so that you know that they're there and that they can help you faster than I found them and then they helped me. My goal is always to pay it forward and help make your life easier and to help you learn from my mistakes. So without further ado, let's start with the complete memory work list. Every single lesson, for example, I'll just even go to here, you're going to see a warm-up section. And in the warm-up section, there's going to be questions to go over. These are review questions that actually come from here. So for example, in week 2, you would ask the following questions at some point in the warm-up phase. What do we call the result when we add numbers together? And the answer would be the sum. Second, what do we call the result when we subtract a number from another? And the answer would be the difference. So these are math facts we're trying to help our children gently memorize by asking them regularly, once a day, asking some sort of memory question. So I love that they have all the questions here. For example, if your child was struggling with some of the questions and enough of them that you wanted a complete place where you could turn to, where you could just review different things, and especially as the year goes, this helps you remind them. For example, when we're on week 14, we might need to work on what the sum is and what difference is and which sign is greater and which sign is less than. So it's a really helpful page to know of. Okay, the second page that I want to highlight is the complete picture book list. The 5th lesson day of each week is pretty optional. We don't do most of the enrichment activities that are listed there. However, we love checking out from the library one of the picture books from this list. We do generally try to follow the week in sequential order, but depending on what's available in our library, it's not always possible. For week 1, we did do Masterpieces, The Art of Problem Solving, and that was so fun. This book uniquely was not a typical read aloud book. This was more, you had an art picture on one page, and on the second page, you were able to do a little math problem with it. I can actually show you this book because we still have it. Okay, so for example, you have a beautiful picture. I'm sure you're familiar with The Starry Night by Van Gogh. And here's a little rhyme. It's called Star Power. See the nighttime all aglow. It's the vision of Van Gogh. Bright exploding swirling stars, cosmic forces from afar. Can you group the stars in heaven? Find 4 ways to make a 7. So here you look at these different groups. This is 4, 1, 2, 2, and 3. And now your child is challenged with finding 4 ways to make a sum of 7. So you can see how that would be applying that week's questions, which actually, if we go back, lines up perfectly with what do we call the result when we add numbers together, the sum. So it's another fun way to learn the sum. That was a really cool book. The next book we were able to read that we have done is Your Fantastic Elastic Brain, Stretch It, Shape It. Now, this book is more of a storybook. It's definitely very engaging, lots of fun pictures. It follows the story theme. It's a non-fictional book, and there's lots of fun ways to explain our brain, what the parts are, what they do. It's a very well-written book. I highly recommend it. This book is actually going on our to-buy list. We have books that we check out, and that's our standard way of viewing the complete picture book list. But we for sure have books that we love so much that we are going to buy at the end of the year. And so to check out all of these, we find it more economical just to check them out from the library. This list is so helpful because I can say, okay, if we're on week 4, we should probably start looking at weeks 5, 6, 7, and 8 and see how popular these books are. See if we can get away with checking out a book just a week in advance, or maybe the book is going to be more popular. Maybe we need to check it out 3 weeks in advance. So you just kind of look at the holds and see what you have going on if you're going the library route. If you want to purchase all of these, obviously you don't have to wait. You can purchase them all at once and then maybe return ones you didn't like. I much prefer to check them out from the library, and then ones that we loved, buying them when it suits us to buy them. Okay, now let's go ahead and turn to our next helpful resource. This is our materials list. Now, we already went over the materials list and what you need in your math kit, but if you want one concise place to not only have these, which the last list that I had showed was not concise, it was quite detailed. This is just a simple, concise list. And then you also want a place that includes all the other supplies. These are all just the household items. You don't need to buy them and put them in a materials list. These are just things that you'll likely have on hand that you'll use for that week, and it will give you a warning in advance. In like one of these, if you needed something, it would tell you in this little box right here, if you needed something out of the ordinary. This will tell you all of the materials that you'll need. Like, see, for example, here you're going to need 6 slips of paper, and that would have been notated somewhere in here. So that is a really handy, convenient resource. Okay, next we are going to go to our game list and extra game boards. There's a lot of games in this curriculum, and this is so nice to have a list of all of the games that we have, and it's going to tell you where the directions for that game is. It doesn't tell you the exact page, but it tells you, so that 9.4 would be week 4, day 4 of that week, and so on. So it is so helpful. This curriculum not only creates their own game boards, but then also creates fun games. So this would be a game board, and it will tell you where the directions for that are. This, however, is not a game board. It's just a written out game that the curriculum came up with, and this gives you all the instructions and information. If it is going to be a game board that the curriculum has created, and you're supposed to pull that out of the student workbook when you get to it, it's going to have an asterisk right next to it. So you can see that, and that's very helpful to know the difference. All right, moving right along. Here, I also have tabbed our helpful resources, our masters. So I'm not going to go over them in detail because we already did that. So there we go. This is all the information of Math with Confidence. Now let's go ahead and get into an actual lesson. First, I need to find out the binder, which is where I keep the number line. Okay, so this is very real. We're going to set this aside for a moment while I put this back. Okay, then I'm going to get out my manipulatives box. Okay, so we are going to get out our play money. That's what this looks like. And we're going to get out our counters, okay? I'm also going to get out the dice that we have. So here are our counters. Okay, here's our money. Here's our number line. Something special that I did do with the counters, they didn't come this way at all. I organized them by color. They were not separated by color. And I put them in these bags, okay? If I had a bag in between that bag that I had for the dice and this, I wish it went to about right here, but I didn't have it on hand. So this is fine. They flatten out. It's good. I just put these into their own bag because I found that was one of the biggest time wasters, was finding my counters. Because sometimes you need like 10 of one color and 3 of another color and 2 of another color. And I was like, this is for the birds. It is so hard when they're all together and they're pretty translucent. So it's hard to tell which one is which when they're all together. So that was my number one time saver, okay? Was putting the counters in their own bag, 2, putting the dice in their own bag, and 3, putting the money in their own bag. And I'm going to walk you through this before I continue with the lesson flip through. Okay, guys, come on. This is like so simple. It takes like no time at all, but it is going to save you so much time. And let me just show you. See these? It might seem like these would fit in a bag like this, but trust me, they don't. And it was just too complicated to get it to close. And I was like, these are all going to fall out and they're going to end up on the floor. And this is going to be worse than what we started with. So here we have our nickels, our dimes, our pennies. My set came with $50. We never used them, but I put them in a bag anyways because my son loves to have them. And then our quarters. So just this organization has saved me so many minutes. Do it. Highly recommend. So the last thing that I forgot to grab were our dry erase markers because they are going to help us write on the number line very well. That being said, back to the lesson, we have lesson 2.3. So here we are doing a warm-up, and this requires the play money. And I actually got my coins out but when it says play money, unless it's saying coins, it actually refers to the bills. So I'm going to grab the bills really quickly. See, this is a real life thing. This really happens on a day-to-day basis. So here is our play money. Okay, so it is saying place about 6 to 8 $10 bills on the table. I am going to put, but also you're not supposed to say, so don't make that error. Don't actually say it. And do I actually put exactly how many it says? No, I don't, because then it just takes the fun out of it. So taking out some 10s. It's the last one before I hit a 20. Okay, so moving this away because I would not have this here teaching my son. Okay, so I would have a space, right? So I put these down and say, all right, how many do you think there are? And he guesses a number. And then I say, okay, I want you to count them. And then I want you to count by tens, however many you have. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8. And then I'm going to say, okay, go ahead and count by tens all the bills. And he's going to go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So then I'll say how much money is in there, and he'll say $80. Then we're going to put these bad boys away. Okay, so I am actually physically putting these away. Like I said, I'm being real with you. You want to know how long this is really taking? Well, there you go. So I am going to put this away in my manipulatives bag. Okay, back comes the book, and here we are on this second warm-up activity. And again, evaluate each of these activities. If your child needs them, do it. If they don't, skip it. Okay, so we just did the 6 to 8 $10 bills on the table, and here you would have said about how many dollars do you think the money is worth. Okay, so we just did that. So activity number 2, what do we call the result when we add numbers together? That is the sum. What do we call the result when we subtract a number from another? And that is the difference. And my son is really working on this. By the time we were at this lesson, he did not know either answer. So we would just kind of say it over and over until he got that. Okay, and then the third activity is write the following inequalities on a piece of paper and have your child read them. So here you can see the inequalities, and this is where we would write it on our whiteboard. So let me grab that. Okay, here is our whiteboard, and let me get a lovely dry erase marker. And I use a tissue as an eraser. I just don't have the wherewithal to always track down an eraser. Okay, so here we have 86, and I would usually have him write this, by the way. So here I would say, I would just read this. 86 is greater than 51. So here he is writing this. Okay, and then I would say, okay, then I want you to write 24 is less than 25. Okay, then I would say, all right, now I want you to write 73 equals 73. Okay, taking off the pencil. I'm not even pausing. Normally in recording, I would pause. And then we're going to erase all of that. And he did pretty well with these, but if your kiddo needs more time, do some extra equations, okay? All right, so that is it for the dry erase portion with the whiteboard at least. Okay, so then it says activity, and here is our first teaching activity. It's introduce the number line, okay? All right, introducing the number line. Okay, so today you'll learn a new way to represent the numbers, the number line. So then it says to show your child the blank number line. And here it says to cut the page apart on the dotted line. It tells you to assemble it here. I did this in advance. Okay, here are the instructions that it would have given you. I did it in advance. I didn't think it would be part of a lesson, and since I wanted it laminated, it had to be done in advance. So unless you want to have your child laminate with you, then that's a great activity to do together. And so then here it says you're going to write 0. I would flip this around. So you're going to write 0 here. You're going to write 10 here. And then you're going to write 20 here. Okay. So then it says on this number line, each tick mark stands for the next counting number. It takes a long time to write every number, so we'll label only a few numbers. I bet you can figure out where the other numbers are. So then you would point to 10 and say, if this mark is 10, where is 11? And so then I would point to right here. You can see how this looks like a lot, but it's going to go by very fast actually. And then where is 9? Child points here, and have your child point to 0, 1, 2, 20. Okay, and 19 at one time, so you have them do that. Okay, then reverse the process, point to 13. So now instead of having them point, you're pointing to 13. And you don't say this, okay? So it's not bolded, so don't say this. I've made that mistake before. So now you're pointing to 13. What number is this? And then they say 13. And you say, how do you know? And they say, well, it's 3 ticks after 10. Okay, so it's just a visual way of having them add, right? This is all the number line is here for, is another way to show how to add. Okay, so now the next thing is I'm pointing to 5 and I say, what number is this? And they say 5, and you say, how do you know? And they say, well, it's 5 ticks past 0, or it's 5 ticks behind 10, okay? And then you say 5 is halfway between 0 and 10. Do you notice how this tick mark is a little longer and darker than most of the others? Okay, so right here. That makes it easier to see, just like the dark bar in the middle of the 10 frame is a 10, okay? So now I point to 6, 7, 15, and 16 one at a time and have my child, identify them, okay? Then we say there are infinitely many numbers, so no number line could ever show all of them. And then I point out the arrows right here, just to kind of explain that this could go on forever. And these arrows help remind us that the numbers continue farther. Okay, so that is it with this page, and we are continuing on to the next page. Here we are done with the number line for that purpose, but now we're going to play a game, and this game is super fun. We had so much fun. I'm not going to play the entire game right here, but I am going to read how you do play the game and show you kind of how that looks. So keeping what I wrote here, okay, the 0, 10, and 20, we're going to use this, but I'm going to put it away just for a second so we can get out the next components. So here you need the blank number line, 4 counters of 2 different color, and 1 die. Okay, materials we need. 1 die. Grabbing that. Sorry, it's out of camera. I'll put it back. All right, and then we need 2 colors. We're going to go with blue and red because those are the colors of our choice. So again, I'm showing you real time. This is what it really looks like. Okay, guys, if this is too much for you, this is a good indicator. But usually my son and I are talking during this, and I'm also teaching usually when I'm getting stuff out. I've gotten to the point where I can do that, where I'm getting stuff out, or I get stuff out the night before. That's another way you can do it if you have that kind of commitment. I do not always have to do that, and I rarely do. Okay, so I'm going to read these rules with you, and then I will kind of give you an example, but we're not playing the whole game, okay? All right, so we got the materials, and the object of the game is to bump all of your opponent's counters off of the number line, okay, right? So say, for example, I'm red, and my son is blue, okay? Just for example. Give each player 4 counters and take turns placing your counters on the number line. Each counter must be on one of the tick marks. Okay, so you're going to put them somewhere on here, right? Each person takes a turn putting one on. Each counter must be on one of the tick marks, and there may only be 1 counter on each tick mark. The first player rolls the die and moves one of her counters the corresponding number of tick marks. For example, if your counter is on a 5 and you roll a 3, you can move your counter to either 2 or 8. If your opponent has a counter on your landing spot, bump it and remove it from the game. It is out of here. Kind of like Sorry if you've ever played that before. Take turns rolling and moving your counters. The player who removes all of the other players' counters first wins. And then we're going to do the workbook. So I'm going to show you the game very briefly, and then we are going to go to the workbook. And I'm going to show you what workbook we're going to have. All right, guys, that instructor manual is gone. We are done with it. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to just kind of randomly put these on as if we were taking turns, putting them in different places. It is blue's turn again, and then red again, and blue. Okay, that's what it's going to look like, more or less, at the beginning. So then I am player 1. Okay, so I am my son. I am blue. Let's go. 6. He's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And then I am red. So now it's my turn. That went out of shot. 3. Okay, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. I bumped his piece off. And there it goes. And that's how you play. And you just keep playing. You can go either direction. And you just go and go and go, each taking turns, until they are all bumped off. And there's one last counter standing. Okay, all right, this is the game. Now let's move along to the student guide. But wait, I'm being realistic and you're putting these away with me. Just kidding. I'm still on autopilot of like doing as much as I can off camera to save time, but we're not doing that today. We're putting this away together. And I just like compress that air. See that? So much flatter. So satisfying. How you just get to hear my deep thoughts as I put stuff away, man. I don't know if this is such a good idea. Okay, all right. So we're putting that away. Put this die away. And you better believe I'm going to use that tissue to erase this. You see what I mean? Sometimes it just gets under, but that's okay. So easy. I cannot imagine this not being laminated, truly, guys. And it folds like a dream. Okay, now we're going to get out my planner because I got to put this bad boy away. Gotta stay organized, man. Okay, so here we go. Planner done. Now let's get that manipulative box. And we're going to put this all away. And yeah, there are a lot of pieces. Even with my organization, there's still a lot of pieces. But guess what? My son loves it. And it's not inconvenient for me. So we're talking usually while I'm getting stuff out. It gives my son a chance to have like a mental break, you know? He's not like constantly doing things. And I also have the luxury of just really teaching one kiddo at a time. Oh no, I forgot the Kleenex. Can't forget that. So because of that, I'm in a different position of other people, and I recognize that. Okay, now let's get the student manual out. Okay, so here is the workbook for lesson 2.3. So this is lesson 2.3A, and this is B. So these are the 2 pages that we are doing, okay? So we have the instructions here which say connect each number to its spot on the number line. So draw a line for each number as it continues for each. And this probably took my son about 5 minutes. I wouldn't say it would take longer than that. And it's just practicing your counting, okay? And now the second page has been, in my experience, a review page. So now we're reviewing addition, okay? Here we're reviewing our shapes, and here we're reviewing money counting. Okay, and this probably took about 5 minutes. So here he's adding, and here he's crossing out the shapes that don't belong. So this is these are rectangles and these are not. So those are crossed out. These are all circles, and that's an oval, so that's not a circle. So there we go. And here we're just counting money. So again, this isn't like a very laborious workbook, to be completely honest, but it does help you understand whether or not they are comprehending the material. And it identifies weak points in review material. So if your child is struggling here, that gives you an opportunity to practice your addition. You could play the Shoots and Ladders addition again if that was helpful, okay? Okay, guys, that is Math with Confidence. Okay, guys, this is it. Thank you so much for tuning in with me and doing a lesson with me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope, if nothing else, this made you realize that you can do this. This is not too much. You are capable of this, if that's a path you want to go down. And if it's not, that's okay. I would love to hear about what it is you decided to do instead. Please comment below. I love hearing about the curriculum everybody is doing, so please let me know. And if you have any other organization tips, please share. Please share the wealth. I would love to know. If there's someone that you know who has already shared tips and tricks in their own video, please comment below. If possible, link it. I definitely want my viewers to have all the resources they possibly can. So, and if you're curious, I did get this box from Target. Super simple. It holds everything. Okay. So anyways, thanks guys. Thanks for tuning in. You can do this. It's not too hard. If it's a curriculum for you, and if it's something you want to do, you can do it. I believe in you. Okay, guys, thanks for tuning in to Homeschooling on Mama's Bed. Till next time, bye-bye.